So today we're going to unpack a really important question in modern healthcare. What happens when our biggest medical successes, keeping people alive from really serious infectious diseases, actually end up creating a new chronic threat? We're going to use France as our case study to really dig into this global challenge. Let's get started. But you know what? Before we dive in, I want to share a critical, protective message for absolutely everyone listening. If you, or maybe someone you love, suddenly experiences weakness or confusion or has trouble speaking or gets a really severe headache out of nowhere, you have to act immediately. These could be signs of a stroke or another big cardiovascular event. Please, do not wait for it to get better on its own. Don't just assume it's going to pass. Every single second counts. Getting medical help right away protects brain function, it protects a person's independence, and it protects families from a loss that could have been prevented. Now, that same sense of urgency, the kind we have for an emergency like a stroke, we need to bring that to a much slower, more chronic threat that's emerging from one of public health's greatest victories. And to understand that, we need to look at what's happening in France. France has had some incredible success in public health, and it's created this paradox, really, that is now shaping the future of medicine. So through things like expanded HIV treatments and really structured tuberculosis care, France has gotten these remarkable results. I mean, just look at these numbers. 94% of people with HIV know their status. Okay, great. Of that group, 96% are on treatment. And of those on treatment, a full 97% have an undetectable viral load. This is a huge, monumental victory for public health. It means people are living longer, healthier lives than we ever thought possible. But this success leads us right to the heart of this explainer. What comes next, after survival? What happens when the amazing feat of keeping people alive reveals a new, long-term challenge for the body? Well, this new challenge is a kind of double burden, where the fight against infection and the fight against chronic disease, they basically become the same thing. Okay, so here's the crucial point. When you're managing a disease like HIV or TB for the long haul, it can create this state of chronic low-level inflammation in the body. That, plus the metabolic side effects of some of the life-saving meds, can actually increase your long-term risk for things like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and stroke. Now, listen, this is not a failure, not at all. It's a sign that we've reached the next necessary evolution of patient care. Let's break this double burden down a little. On one side, you have immune activation. Your body is basically on a constant low-grade alert, fighting the infection. On the other side, you've got metabolic stress. The same antiretroviral therapies that are saving lives can, over many years, change how the body processes fats and sugars. So you've got these two pressures happening at once, and together they can speed up the aging process and raise your risk profile. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This biological reality, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is massively impacted by social and systemic factors, especially for migrant populations. In fact, research in France has pinpointed this critical period of vulnerability, a 6-year window that shows exactly how social instability can directly harm your health. A really important study, the ANRS Parcours Survey, found something truly astonishing. Among Sub-Saharan African migrants in France who got HIV after they arrived, the majority, 58%, were infected within their first 6 years in the country. This is not random. That 6-year window, it turns out, is a period of intense instability. And you can see that vulnerability visualized right here on this chart from the actual research. On the left, you've got the data for men. On the right, for women. The dark gray bars show infections that happened before they migrated. But just look at those lighter bars. That's the first 0 to 6 years after they moved. For both men and women, this period is a huge spike in new infections, and it's a direct result of the incredible challenges people face when trying to build a new life. Researchers found that it takes, on average, 6 years for these migrants to get what they call the 4 pillars of stability. Just think about that for a second. 6 years of navigating unstable legal status, of struggling to find work, of dealing with unstable housing, and because of all that, having really fragmented access to healthcare. This isn't a personal failing. It is a systemic barrier that directly creates health risks. So if survival was the first big victory, what's the next one? Well, it's protection. It's about designing systems that don't just treat an infection, but that protect the whole person for their entire life. This right here, this is the key shift in mindset we need. It completely reframes the goal of healthcare. Our responsibility is no longer just about getting to an undetectable viral load. It's about making sure that a long life is also a strong and healthy one. So what does this protection actually look like in practice? Well, it means care has to be integrated. It means that when someone goes for their HIV checkup, that's also when they get screened for high blood pressure, for cholesterol, for diabetes risk. It means infectious disease doctors and heart specialists are actually talking to each other, coordinating a plan for the patient. It's all about being proactive, not reactive. All right, let's pull all these threads together now and really answer our main question. So, when an infectious disease becomes a source of chronic harm, the answer isn't some new magic pill. The answer is systemic evolution. Healthcare systems have to shift from a narrow focus on just survival to a holistic, integrated model of long-term wellness. And this is the ultimate takeaway. The triumph of modern medicine that lets people live longer with HIV and TB now demands that we make sure they can also live stronger, free from the preventable burden of cardiovascular and metabolic diseases. This knowledge, it's a tool, so use it as a form of protection. You can follow the ongoing work in this area, visit amhd.ca to go even deeper, and most importantly, share this understanding. These are the conversations we need to be having in our homes, in our clinics, and in our communities. Because you see, awareness is protection, and that protection has a generational impact. So the question this really leaves us with is a personal one. In this necessary and evolving next chapter of healthcare, what role are you going to play?